About 2 years ago, I did an interview with this channel called We Need to Talk, and some of the clips got backlash naturally, and other clips people seem to agree with. It's been a while since I've checked out the videos, but I wanted to watch them back and see what I think about them now and what updates have happened in my life since then, because a lot has changed.
You should be celebrated for every aspect of your growth and your growing pains.
Okay, so I remember before I recorded this video, I was so nervous because men were just dogging women out on this channel. I mean, dogging them out. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if I say something wrong? At the end of the day, though, all I can do is be me. Like, that's all I can do is be me. So, like, my goal was to do my very best to just be myself and be authentic because I knew either way I was going to get shit for it. So, may as well get shit for being who I actually am as opposed to, like, getting shit for faking. I remember feeling like the interview went well, but I'm kind of nervous to watch it back. I'm not going to lie. So let's just dive in and see what was going on.
I feel like for a long time I got overlooked and people were not checking for me, like at all. It wasn't until, I don't know if it's because like my hair is big now that they're like, who's homegirl with the big hair? But like people were not checking for me. I've always been like a smiley, bubbly, friendly person. But the women that guys were chasing after were the ones who were throwing ass everywhere, throwing ass and titties everywhere, like acting super grown, super sexy. I didn't even get comfortable with the idea of being sexy until like a couple years ago.
Listen, it's the message right here. Like, boy, tell me how you really feel.
Okay, I just want to comment on the intro really quick. So when I'm saying they were acting grown, this is when I was young. So I can remember being in high school. You know, I had my little boyfriend at one point. I had, whatever. I have a little boyfriend. This particular person that I have in mind, this kind of thing happened with a lot of dudes. Dudes were not checking for me when I was in middle school, high school, all that kind of stuff. First of all, the beginning of my life, I grew up around a lot of white people. So you could imagine why they weren't checking for me then. And then I remember in 7th grade, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most black people I've ever been around. And my school was only like, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20% black, something like that. It's a nice, good chunk, but you know, it's not like it was majority black. It might have been less than that. It might have been more like 12%. But anyways, and so I remember being like, okay, this is different. And after the newness wore off and they realized that I wasn't one that was down with all of the like really sexual stuff, like don't be grabbing my butt. I don't know you like that. And even if I did, don't be grabbing my butt. Like I wasn't engaging in some of the activities that other people were engaging in. And so like at that age, people are bouncing. Like I've gotten broken up with before because I was boring, AKA I wouldn't sleep with him. And so he then went to get with somebody who would sleep with him. I've gotten cheated on before because I wouldn't sleep with somebody. And like at that point, I was like 17, 18 when I got cheated on for not sleeping with somebody. So one of the comments that I got a lot in this was like, oh, people were checking for her. She just wasn't checking for the people checking for her. Okay, that's fine.
Cause I just wanna build with you. Black girl, tell me how you really feel. I wanna keep it real with you.
That was me getting my wiggles out.
Better,
I was so nervous.
I wanna
Can you tell how nervous I was? Shake it out.
love better, sleep better. Yeah, I wanna feel so aligned.
As a woman, you have to vet men, right?
Yes.
As a woman, you have insight on women. So going back to my first question, if you were a dude, how would you vet women?
Ooh.
That's a good question. How would I answer that now? If you were a dude, how would you vet women? I don't know. I guess I'd really try to pay attention to their character. It would depend on the kind of dude I am, really, because every guy needs to vet women differently. So that I probably would say it depends. What kind of guy am I and what do I need?
If I was a dude, how would I vet women. I feel like...
And I want you to be granular. I don't just, if she's a good person, I want you to get into the weeds.
Get into the weeds on...
I feel like I'd like one that reads books. Like one that reads... If I was a man, I'd probably date a woman that's reading like Harry Potter. I would date... I'm really just gonna like describe myself. Like probably someone who's like, oh, she's a little bookworm and she's reading and she's fun. I mean, the books that she's reading, you don't know that the books that she's reading might have a little something spicy in it. If you're an Akatar fan or something, you know what I'm talking about. You just be reading like, okay. Someone who's like a little bit of a nerd, but like super sweet. I'd probably be dating someone who, I don't know, probably at some point didn't understand. I don't know. It's hard. I'm interested to see what I said in here.
This one. This is an interesting question because I've never vetted a woman before. I know as a woman how I vet men based off what I'm looking for. Okay, can we do this? Can you share with me, in your opinion, what men are looking for in women, and then I can share how I feel like you would find those things?
That's valid. That's still the it depends answer. Tell me what you're looking for, and I'll tell you how to find it. Okay, Dasha.
The main thing is peace.
Okay.
Attractiveness. A warm and friendly disposition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, attractiveness, I think you can just kind of look, like you can just see it if you're attracted to them or not. Peace. Is she argumentative all the time? If you bring something up, how does she treat other people? How do other women respond to her? Does she make you feel peaceful?
How do I put this? A good person, somebody who's not going to screw you over, like, during a divorce, or somebody who's not vindictive, somebody who's not, selfish.
Why are you already planning for divorce, one? And two, realistically, I don't think you ever can plan for those kinds of things. The best way to make sure that you're not getting screwed over in a divorce, if you're thinking like that, is probably to have a prenup or just like don't get a divorce. I know sometimes that's unavoidable. I don't know. There's no guarantees though.
So the peace piece is the peace piece is the most important part.
So I would pay attention to how much peace she has in her own life and how at peace she is with herself. Pay attention to how she talks about herself. Does she speak highly of herself, or is she always down on herself? Like, how much does she love herself? What's her self-worth like? If she says that she's gonna do something, does she do it? What's her relationship like with her family? That's not to say that the relationship with everyone has to be perfect, but does she have a relationship with people in her family, and what does that look like? If there is...
Okay, so far, I feel like I'm agreeing with everything that I'm saying. How much peace does she have in her own life? How much peace does she have within herself? So if she doesn't have peace within herself and within her own life, then obviously she's not going to be a peaceful person for you. I think paying attention to the relationships with family, that's going to be important regardless. I personally don't have a relationship with everybody in my family. There are reasons for that, and I'm also at peace with that. So I think even in terms of paying attention to relationships with family, it's just how do you relate to family? I think it's all about how do you relate to yourself, how do you relate to life, and how do you relate to others? And if you pay attention to how someone relates to those three things, you can learn a lot about them.
Is a relationship in her family that is less than perfect, how does she feel about it? And has she come to terms with it? Has she healed through it? Has she made effort? Like how did that go? What did that look like? Because, that's important. I don't think that every family member has to be in her life and every family member she has to be on good terms with. But understanding her relationship to that, I think, is very important.
Okay, so apparently past me and current me are on similar wavelengths.
Little things, does she show appreciation, and is she encouraging? Like with the small stuff. From my understanding, I'll say just with the small stuff, is she encouraging? Is she loving? Does she smile? How is she with friends? How is she around other people? Again, go into environments when other people are around. Is she friendly or is she standoffish? A lot of these things I just feel like you can observe in someone. Does she say thank you when you do something for her?
Yeah, I feel like that's really important. I've heard women say things like, yeah, I don't thank him for paying for this because that's what he's supposed to do. And I'm just like, if a man said that to you about something, like, yeah, I don't thank her for cooking dinner because that's what she's supposed to do. I'm sorry, what? Did you say that? You didn't say that to me, right? So I think that appreciation is a big one and underutilized by everybody.
Again, questions. What does she value? What's important to her? Some of those different things are going to be important to different people in terms of that. But for the peace thing, I really just feel like how at peace she is in her own life, how she conducts herself in her own life, what are her self-care practices in her own life. I just feel like observing her, how she moves throughout life, how she experiences life, her relationship to life, to herself, and to those around her. I feel like is essentially what you look at.
Wow, past me and current me really are the same. I guess that's good. That's literally what I just said.
Is everything to her a drag? Is there always something to complain about? Because if that's the case, then you're probably not going to have much peace because she's going to be complaining about something.
Ooh, I do want to say, though, there's a difference between complaining and feedback. If you're with a woman and she is sharing with you in a healthy way how she's feeling and you're getting defensive, then it's not that she's complaining, it's that you're getting defensive. And that's an important differentiation and something that I definitely want to talk about more on my channel. And we'll be talking about more on my channel because that is an important differentiation that I've learned some men cannot make.
Her goggles focus on what's wrong and not what's going great in her life. So like, how does she talk about challenges? Does she talk about challenges as opportunities for growth? Or does she talk about challenges in a way that she's defeated and deflated? Yeah, when someone does something, or even when you, as a guy, when you do something that she doesn't like, how does she respond to it? Does she come to you and does she say outright like, "Hey, you did this and it hurt my feelings," and come to you and have a conversation about it, or does she give you the silent treatment for a week?
This is a big one. It takes a lot of vulnerability to go to someone and say, "Hey, when you did this thing, it really hurt my feelings." And you have to trust that other person. And sometimes the other person may not respond the way that you need them to. That's something that you sometimes have to teach your partner how to do, like how to have a healthy response. Because we're so used to unhealthy communication that when you are a healthy communicator, sometimes people are unable to receive that and respond in a healthy way because they've never been taught how to respond in a healthy way. And so just for someone to give this level of vulnerability of, "Hey, when you did this thing, it hurt my feelings," that is an honor. And that means that they trust you and they believe that you love them. And that also means that they've probably done a lot of self-work if they're able to be that level of vulnerable. It's hard. It's taken a lot of practice.
Like just simple, I really don't think it's that complicated, but maybe it's because I'm a woman. But I feel like if you just focus on the things that you're saying you want, it's easy to see if a woman's friendly. It's easy to feel if a woman brings you peace or not. I think it's just about not rushing it and taking your time to allow yourself to see that.
So here's what's tough.
Uh-oh.
Let me have it.
I agree with everything you said.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Part of my ministry is encouraging Black men to commit themselves to the idea of finding a Black woman to join in partnership with, as opposed to some of the alternatives. If I had a panel of Black men here, I suspect they would say, these things that you just mentioned, these negatives, tend to be consistent amongst Black women. And some of the positives, small examples, smiling, tend to not be present amongst our women. I encourage men.
Okay. We could go there. We could go there. Okay. And I'm sure sweet little version of Dasha here probably didn't do that. But we could go there. Because if we want to be all the way real, black women could say the same thing about black men in terms of like, oh, y'all are supposed to be doing this provide and protect thing. We could say, oh, well, you know, other races tend to protect their women more fiercely and provide for them monetarily more. They have to do more for their. So like, I'm not saying what he's saying is wrong. I'm just saying that goes both ways. That's why black women are starting to be like, look, I want to be a black man, but if I gotta go elsewhere, that's what I gotta do. So if black men want to date somebody else, let them date somebody else. That's fine. If you don't want to be over here, we don't want you over here. Let's continue.
And to take it a step further and understand that, there's generations of trauma that inform her behavior. Where she's from informs her behavior. Her father not being in her life informs her behavior. All the trauma she's experienced throughout her life.
How men are treating her when she's in a relationship with them forms her behavior. How about that?
Informs her behavior. So there's a level of grace that we must have with black women. How do we navigate the fact that stuff like simply smiling tends to be a more nuanced ask than it should be, I guess? And if we were just vetting based on those things, then a lot of black men already are doing it. Like, we'll take their business elsewhere because those things tend to be easier to find. So, like, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know, though. I don't know. Maybe I'm around a lot of women who are like me. I do know that there's a lot of women who maybe don't smile, who aren't super friendly, who whatever. There are a lot of black women who are.
Yeah, and guess what? People aren't checking for them. That's not who they want to date. They want to date the sexy, like they're smizing, like, like the dark feminine like that's who they're going after. A lot of the times. There's so many black women that smile and are present too, but pleasant and kind and all this kind of stuff. I just watched this video the other day where they're popping the balloons, and there was this one black woman. She was beautiful. Her skin was gorgeous. She had on this white dress and this like scarf, like that was like, she just looked like oh my gosh. If I was a man, that is who I would go for. And that's what I told my husband when we were watching it. I was like, if I was a man, that's who I would go for. And this man, the way he was talking to her was crazy. And she still remained classy, all of that kind of stuff. She was smiling. She was pleasant. Like, sometimes women can give men all of that and they're still, that does not negate the man being who he is, which may or may not be someone who is looking for someone who really would add to his life in a meaningful way. And let's continue.
And a lot of black women who do. And from my perspective, I feel like sometimes men aren't checking for those women. I feel like they want the women who don't want them back.
Isn't that everybody? The men want the women who don't want them back, and the women want the men who don't want them back. And the moment that you can stop that cycle within your own life, it's probably the moment that you're going to find someone that is amazing.
I feel like the friendly women get put in the friend zone. So is it that they aren't there, or that they aren't being paid attention to, or they aren't packaged the way that you want them to be packaged? Because also the woman who is smiling and friendly probably is not going around like wearing a face full of makeup all the time, or with her hair super done up all kind of ways, or with...
And she could be, but also she might not be that one.
In Fashion Nova, tight fitting clothes on all the time. She's probably in something comfortable because that's what she'd prefer to be in. She's probably in something comfortable, some little flip-flops or something, some sandals that are flat. She's not necessarily going to be the loudest. She's not necessarily going to be...
She's not dressing for the male gaze. She's dressing for herself.
Her face, she's probably going to be like quieter. Like I feel like for a long time I got overlooked and people were not checking for me, like at all. It wasn't until, I don't know if it's because like my hair is big now that they're like, who's homegirl with the big hair? But like, people were not.
It's probably multiple things. I think I also was not as confident back then. I feel like I'm a lot more confident now. And that shows in a lot of different ways. It shows in my style, it shows in my hair, it shows in my skin, it shows in like everything. For a long time, I think I dressed frumpy so that people wouldn't even like look at me. That was more so in college though. Before then, people just weren't checking for me. That's just what it was. People were not looking for good girls. Good girls. They were looking for the girls who were going to do stuff with them. And then, you know, they were going to talk about them later, which is crazy to me. Anyways.
Checking for me. I've always been like a smiley, bubbly, friendly person. But the women that guys were chasing after were the ones who were throwing ass everywhere. Throwing ass and titties everywhere. Acting super grown, super sexy. I didn't even get comfortable with the idea of being sexy until like a couple years ago.
That's still a thing. I grew up in a church environment, like going to church on Sundays and sometimes twice and on Wednesdays, and then a Bible study sometime during the week at somebody's house. And, you know, I think nobody talks about how there's so much thrown at women to be pure and don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex. But then you expect us to embrace our sexuality at some point and to have sexual experiences with somebody at some point, a husband, a significant other. Like you expect that to happen. But all we're raised to do for years, for our whole lives, is don't have sex. Don't dress or move or walk or talk in a way that would attract attention from men. But now you expect me to be comfortable, to feel comfortable, to be and feel and believe that I am sexy? That's a big freaking ask. That's a big ask for anybody. And that's why there's so many women who they are virgins their whole lives, and then on their wedding night, all that's happening is they're fucking crying because they don't want to do this and they don't know how to do this, and it's uncomfortable and it's scary, and it doesn't just turn on. You don't just all of a sudden become a sexual human being when you've not been having sex your whole life. And so that's why it's a hard transition to make. I'm not gonna lie.
Like, you could not get me to say that I was sexy. No way I was ever going to say that about myself. My mom.
Honestly, I still have some trouble saying I'm sexy. I'll be like, I'm cute. I'm a baddie. I know I'm sexy, but I don't really say that, if that makes sense. But I believe it, especially like in certain moments. Anyways.
Literally sat me down and she said, Dasha, you're a grown woman.
This is a true story.
It's okay for you to be sexy. I feel comfortable being cute. I feel comfortable saying I'm cute. I don't feel comfortable claiming sexy. That shit.
Is that anybody else? Does anyone else feel comfortable saying they're cute but not saying they're sexy? I would love to know your experience.
That doesn't feel like that's who I am. You know? So I feel like
I've also heard the saying that cute can be sexy, but sexy can't be cute. So if you're like a naturally cute person, you can like do things, whether it's the way that you style yourself or dress or makeup or whatever, to like then take you to sexy. But if you're just like a naturally super sexy person, it's hard to take that sexy and be cute without the sexiness attached. I don't know if that's a real thing or not, but
some of it is just about keeping your eyes open for, and again, this is for women as well, but also for men, since that's what we're talking about right now, keeping your eyes open to what it is that you say that you want and paying attention to.
Notice I said keep your eyes open to what you say that you want. Because people will say, I've heard women say, I want someone to love me and treat me like a princess, treat me like a queen, like whatever, to be a gentleman. And then they date someone who is the opposite of that. But you said you wanted a gentleman. You said you wanted to feel special, but you're with someone who makes you feel insecure, who makes you feel like an option. That's not what you want. That's what you're allowing right now, but that's not what you want. So why are you settling for someone who's not who you said you wanted? either what you said was a lie or you don't want this person. Which one is it?
Types of women who are the kinds of women that you say that you want.
I agree with you. I think what's tough though is,
Always something.
let me backtrack. Part of the reason why I tell men to like focus on themselves and focus on becoming the type of man that they want to be first before, you know, going out there and trying to find the type of woman. Because she's got to come help you with whatever you're building. So you have to be building something. With that being said, I'm not just talking about Black women that we come across in a romantic context. I'm talking about just in general. I'm talking about at the grocery store, the cashier, the hotel attendant, whatever. 9 times out of 10, it's not a pleasant dialogue. A lot of times, and this is even my own experience, there's a veneer of suspicion initially that I met with. And I want to say it's like not until I open my mouth that they can tell that I'm one of the good ones. But sometimes even after that, there's still that suspicion, like what, you know, something ain't right. Like,
Is that a Black woman thing or is that a women thing? I think women in general have a level of suspicion when it comes to men, if we're being honest. Maybe it's not the most ideal situation. I don't know.
I remember a female friend of mine was telling me about, she was at a bar with some friends of hers, and a Black man, probably a more nerdy guy, was looking at her. And she said, "Hey, how are you?" Said he lost his freaking mind.
That's a real thing that happened. One time, Joseph and I were walking in DC, and we're holding hands. And this Black man passes, and I smile at him. And he's just like, "What?" Joseph was like, he just like threw that man all the way off. Like, people around here do not do that. I'm like, I don't know, I'm from the South. That's what we do. We smile at people. Y'all don't smile around here? I wonder if some of it is also just like a cultural thing. Because I also feel like, I don't know. In different places, some people just don't smile. It's just like not a thing to smile in general for anybody.
She said that he lit up like a Christmas tree. Like, are you talking to me? She said that he ran to his friends and was like, I just met a super, like, he's one of those guys, right? I just met a super cool Black chick, and like, she said hi to me. And when she was telling me the story, I was like, damn, that's fucking sad.
It is sad.
Like, that was foreign to him, that another Black person who was a female was nice to him. And she wasn't interested in him. She wasn't, you know, but she taught him how to salsa dance. He followed her around that club like a dog because he was and I say all that to say that is more common than I think even women realize. So like, why is it, do you think that people like you, and how you're describing the type of women men should be looking for are an anomaly in our community? Why is that? Or do you think they're not and we're missing something?
I mean, I don't know that kind of woman is as big of an anomaly as the internet would have us believe. I do think that women have been having to do a lot for themselves. Like, I feel like women of other races historically have been more protected than Black women. I don't know how that could be disagreed with. And I think that has continued. Other races of people, they protect their women like their lives depend on it, like their future depends on it. And I feel like we're not always the same way to that extent. And not always because that's not how we would want things to be, but because systemically that has been kind of stripped from us. And you can't expect someone who has been so exposed to the world without that level of protection to still be soft and gushy and squishy, especially like immediately. It might take some time to get to that, especially depending on what they've been through. It just might take some time and some patience. And I don't know, just not everyone is equipped to overcome challenges and obstacles in the same way. And for some people, That smile is their mask. It's their protection. It's how they shield themselves. I know that that's, I think, where I got a lot of my traits from initially. It's like, if I'm pleasant, then I will be in less like danger, so to speak, of verbal abuse or like mental emotional abuse. If I just be as like pleasant as possible, then there's no way they can point the blame at me for why they're treating me like this, because I haven't been disrespectful in any way. I haven't had any kind of attitude. So for me, even my pleasantness is a defense mechanism that resulted from me not being protected as a child. And for some people, their defense mechanism looks different. So I think it just depends. I mean, this world that we live in is an interesting one, and we all deal with things differently.
It's hard for me to say because I don't want to negate your experience, because I know my experience is different than yours. And I know that there are Black women who have a demeanor that's not friendly. For example, I'm a woman, so I don't know if just because I am a Black woman that I experience Black women as being more friendly because they trust me. Like, they don't have they trust me because we're the same, I am you, you are me. So I can't, it's hard for me to speak to that because I don't really understand, and I can't really fathom that experience. I can make some guesses at why that might be the case, but I don't know that I'd even know if like my friends do stuff like that when I'm not around. If I had to say, though,
Watch the next video or not. It's up to you. Either way, I'm glad I got to spend this time with you.